Okay, well, let's dive into this property. So this is about 81 acres in Pierce County, Wisconsin, in the township of Maiden Rock, and this is a very desirable area. It's beautiful. It's called the driftless area of Wisconsin. And what happened tens of thousands of years ago, the glaciers came down out of Canada, but they missed this area here, and the resulting geological effects from that were that there was a lot of runoff and it created these tall coulees. So you have these tall ridges here with bottomlands and a lot of creek bottom. Very fertile ground, excellent hunting, just beautiful land. And this property is no exception. So we're going to dive into this property and we're going to focus on a couple of different things. Number one is the buildability and approach. Secondly is the timber and the huntability. And then third is the water features, because this has Plum Creek walking through the property. So as you can see, I'm on a trail here, very nicely set up, runs all the way down through the property. We're going to go down the south end of the property. We're going to check out Plum Creek. It looks like it's a class 1 trout stream, and that's just a great asset on a property. So come along, we're heading to the south side first. All right, anytime I get on a property, access is so important. So let's talk about that in relationship to this property. The properties consist of 240s, and they generally run north and south. And the trail that I'm on here is along the western edge. And this gives it excellent access for not only hunting purposes, but your equipment. And when it's well maintained like this, that's really important. Nice and wide. The farmer who's probably renting this land is able to get his equipment into it just to harvest the corn, plant it, and get it out of here during harvest season. This type of asset is worth tens of thousands of dollars on a property, especially when it's well maintained like this. If you were to try to install this, you're going to spend a lot of money to get it in, get it set up. All right, I'm down into the property now. I'm probably 300 or 400 yards from the truck, and sure enough, I found what was probably the old homestead. There's a remnants of an old barn and a nice cleaned out area here, and this would be a great area to build a home. And the challenge that we have here is that we probably don't have utilities down here, so you'd have to bring it in. And this is a fairly remote area because we came off Primary Road, County U, and we came down 145th, and then we made a right into the property on 25th. So we're really secluded, but it's kind of cool. You get down in here and you can imagine having this whole valley to yourself, because there's nobody down here. I really like that about a property, and a lot of people do nowadays as well. So let's take a look at these buildings, because this is kind of cool. Remnant buildings, no value, just kind of cool, that are left over from the pioneers that probably settled this area. All right, here's one of these old barns that you find in these properties. Obviously no use, but let's go inside here and let's just kind of take a look at it. This is probably an old chicken coop, or maybe they had some farm animals in here a long time ago. I'm gonna be careful I don't have this thing collapse on my head, but obviously this has not been used in many years. A little bit of storage in here. Still fun to come in, kind of explore, see what you see in here. When I find these old buildings like this, I like to just come in here and try to, think about the families that use this and what did they use it for. It's been many years since anybody's been in here. But you never know what you're going to find. Sometimes we find some rusty gold. In this case, I don't see anything. Let's keep moving. All right, come on, Lucy. I found a number of these box blinds around the property so far, and they don't bring any value in the condition they're in. They're either usable, but not going to bring any valuable. And this one actually sits over the top of this little opening here, which could be converted into a food plot. I can see clover planted down here. It might not be too bad. Maybe your approach isn't the greatest, but you're going to come right down the trail here, and you're going to come to this opening, and maybe you could do a little hunting out of this box blind. Does bring any value? Marginally useful. Just something to take note of. Now, if you're looking at these properties to purchase, you want to kind of start to add up all the improvements you're going to want to do to make it better. This is one. You know, do you have to create openings? You got a lot of corn, obviously, this big cornfield here, but are you going to want to make food plots and do you have the openings? Because it's going to cost a lot of money to do that. So I'm going to say it's about a ½ acre in size. Definitely would be fantastic. It's secluded. These deer are going to come off this ridge, probably work in this corn, and they'll flood into these food plots. An opening like this, I'm going to say, now that it's open, all you got to do is spray it and broadcast your brassicas, you're good to go. If you had to come in here with a forestry mulcher and create this, you know, it's going to be probably $1,000 in a day's worth of work to do this. So that's kind of a plus. It's already here, and you don't have to do that. So start to add up those things in your head when you're looking at these properties. All right, here's another one of these little hidden box blinds. Obviously, this one's been used a little bit recent. Got a chair in there still. He's probably sitting here just kind of looking at this cornfield when it's picked. Probably a heck of a view. Great rifle stand right here. Just a good looking spot. Well, here's another one of those little hidey hole food plots. We're about 150 yards from the other one that we showed. Looks like you might have a mineral site right here. Definitely deer using it. But nice little hidey hole food plot. These deer are going to be working this edge. They'll come in here, hang out, get some minerals, go up through there, that other food plot. Now they can't see what's going on up there, so the deer are going to want to move through here. It's going to come a little bit close to that box blind, which is right around the corner, so I don't know if that's so great, but opening's definitely here. All right, Lucy smells water, so we're going to try to get down here, check out Plum Creek. Whoa! Okay. I fell into a hole right there. Come on, Lucy. This is some thick stuff. Oh yeah, here's the creek. Nice looking trout stream. This is pretty. Nice little hole down there Lucy's gonna get into. All right, a little shot of Lucy down in the creek here. Anytime she gets a chance to go swimming, she's gonna do it. So anytime I get a property like this that has a water feature, in this case, I'm pretty sure this is a class 1 trout stream, instant salability upside, no doubt. And this is actually pretty accessible. That little clearing is right here. This could easily be cleaned out and you'd have a nice access to this this stream. And this is Plum Creek. Great trout fishing. I see some nice holes. There's definitely some brooks and some brownies down in here, no doubt. I see a nice hole up here. But anytime you're looking at property, and if you could find property that has a trout stream, it's extremely saleable. And this one happens to be really close to a building spot, one of those openings up there. So can you imagine somebody coming down here, you know, not getting too deep into their property, leaving that wooded ridge all alone, unmolested, quiet, and have your property built down in here, a little barn dominium or small home. Man, I tell you what, that's money every single time. I just love seeing these creeks. So let's talk about this tillable land here. Now, it's definitely got some, you know, value from the sense that you could grow some corn here and you could definitely get paid on this. But when you're looking at comparable properties, you can't confuse this cornfield with agricultural land. Yes, they're planting corn on it. Yes, you can get paid for it. Yes, you can lease it. But when the average buyer looks at a property, or a buyer that's looking for a type of property, a farmer looking for ag ground isn't necessarily going to be as interested in this property, because farmers like long, flat, open ground. And this is probably, I don't know, 25 acres in size, maybe. It's not flat, it's not easily accessible. He is farming it, but this is the highest and best use of this property is more related to the recreational aspect of this property. The farmers definitely want to use it, but they're not going to compare that to flat open ground. So as an example, I recently looked at some property, and I'm doing a meeting with a buyer tomorrow, and they too have a fair amount of tillable ground, but it's broken up by a creek bottom, some woods in the back. There's a couple small little fields, and then a larger section of tillable ground like this. And they wanted to compare that to $7,500 an acre land that is flat, open, tillable, no trees, and that just does not compare here. The highest and best use of this property is related to the recreational aspect of this property. The fact that it's got tillable ground, a little bit of income that you could lease or just, you know, food plot. It's a big food plot that'll attract a lot of deer. That's the value of this property. Highest and best use is something you want to think about when you're looking at these properties. The highest and best use of this property is recreational every day. All right, look at this. Man, this is a fly fisherman's dream. So we're basically walking the edge of the property, and this creek seems to flow in and out of the property all the way down. Nice pools, nice and clear. I see little areas that are 3, 4, 5 feet deep. This is screaming trout for sure. Okay, I want to take a moment to talk about the soil types down this area. So this is here's some of the soil that you can see. This is a sandy loam to loam. It holds its body well. It's got a little moisture down here. And this is just really super good looking soil, very fertile. And now granted, we're down near the creek, so I'm sure there's been some flooding down here at one time. I'll check my maps to see if this is a considered floodplain. But extremely good soils in this state, in this part of the state here, in this valley. All the nutrients that came off of this fields, off of the ridge tops, are settling down these fields, and it grows great corn. So this is super good soil, and that's something that you want to take a look at. If you work with a land specialist, they can give you the soil types, and they can talk about the yield and the history of the crops that were planted in this area. Great soils equal better value property. Okay, well, we popped out at the end of the cornfield, and I came into an area that is all grassy, and I'm guessing maybe this little wet area. This could be a great food plot area, maybe, if it's not too wet, if you can till it under. But it's definitely a nice little plus, because you got the cornfields on one side, you got the timber ridges, and a nice natural opening. My guess is that this probably gets a little wet. That's probably why they didn't plow it under. But sometimes on the right year, you can really make these into great food plots, and especially when they're this secluded. And this is about, I'd say it's an acre, maybe a half acre size for sure. But just another nice feature. So when you're looking at these properties, you got to look at the things that you could do to them, because this is so far a pretty unmanaged property. I haven't seen a lot of upgrades, and with that you can do equity. So if you build it, they will come. So as you're looking at properties, sometimes just the vegetation that is there tells you a lot about what you're dealing with. This is willow, and willow like to grow in wetter soils, which is probably what we got here, this little opening here, based on the vegetation that I'm seeing. Doesn't mean to say they can't, this area doesn't dry out, but for sure this is a great bedding spot. But this willow tells me it tends to be a little wetter. So pay attention to the vegetation types, learn the vegetation types that you're going to find on a property, and then a lot of times you can make a lot of assumptions about the property based on that. Okay, let's go in and see this from a deer's point of view. Now this would be a great area right here for bedding, this overhead cover. And sure enough, right there, look at that. There's a bed right here, and a big bed. This is no doubt some deer's bedroom. He's completely covered in here. He's only a couple bounds away from corn, which you could disappear in. It's cooler in here. We have water 100 yards away. Definitely a great area to be. So when you're doing these deep dives, your agent has to get into this kind of stuff, because the picture starts to come together when you do this, of the potential of these properties and the value that goes with them. Most definitely a deer bed right here. Underneath these willows, the canopy, you can see how it's hollowed out in here. He could come in, turn around, lay down, and that's what's happening here. We're only a couple feet away from this thick open field, a cornfield, 100 yards from water. No doubt this deer was bedded here, and he heard us coming a mile away. He just got the heck out of Dodge when danger approached. So you got to dive into these properties. You got to find that, and that's what we do as a land specialist if I'm working for you. All right, let's get out of here. We're trying to get up on the timber now. Okay, well, let's start turning our comments toward the hunting side. So here is a finger coming off the main ridge. This is what we call a secondary ridge. I'm going to climb up on top of this. This is like a little spine up and down, running up to the main ridge that runs north-south. And you can hear my breathing starting to get labored. That's because I'm walking uphill. But sure enough, there's a fantastic trail right there going up. Let me turn this camera around. Look at that. Beautiful trail going right up this ridge. Now, how would you hunt this? Well, if the deer are down here feeding, you're gonna have to come in high on them, and you know that they're coming off these feeding fields down below, coming up this ridge. So no doubt when we get up in here, eventually we're gonna find that they're running these ridges along the top, along the military crest that we talk about a lot, and that's where they're gonna be. But I like these terrain features because they start to define, you know, movement within these properties. It becomes very predictable, and definitely helps for huntability. So this looks good, and I gotta apologize for the breathing. I got sick after our national sales meeting, and I was on my back yesterday, and now I'm up moving, and my lungs are on fire. I want to keep moving. All right, let's go. Okay, let's talk a little hunting feature. So here's a trail right here. And the reason this trail is here, going down the ridge, down to the food down below, is that there's a little draw right here. And this little drainage that goes down, but it terminates up here. And then this comes up, and the deer are working the edge on top of that draw. It's the easiest place to cover. And when you get up in here, you see this nice little flat. These bucks like to bed on these, and they can be improved if you watch some videos online. But these little flats can be deadly. They're easy to access. You find a terrain feature like that trail, they're going to be working right along there. You got some nice trees up here, easy shot. This is a great little glade in the woods, and this is what I like. I like to see this. This is great setup. Again, raw land that's not been improved so far. If I come across an access trail getting me to these spots, that'll be even better. But I could easily hire a forestry mulcher and make those trail accesses. So that type of thing is what I look for when I try to figure out the value add, so that I can improve the value of these properties when I purchase it. As often happens, is that when you're in the mind of a hunter, you know that other hunters are probably thinking the same thing as you. And sure enough, look what I come up on. A little two-man stand right here. So this guy sees the value of this flat as well, and where these deer are moving and want to go. And he's set up there for you. Now, hopefully, maybe right above us, we have access trail that gets us to the stand. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. But obviously, he had the same thing in mind. Okay, I want to make some comments about timber value. Now, the average realtor will talk to you about timber, and they'll see stuff like this, and they'll say, oh yeah, it's got great timber value, and there's trees. This has no timber value whatsoever that you would want to cut out of here. You're just not going to get a good return on your investment. Now, could you come in and take down some of this small stuff and open this up? Yeah, probably, and it would be beneficial to do that, because you could see where I'm standing, how open this is. And imagine this in the fall when the trees come, when they drop their leaves, it's going to open up. So there's a lot of this small 6-inch stuff, and then every now and then you see a nice tree like this. It's like an ash possibly right here, and this is a good sized tree. And there's a few of them in here, but from a logging, you know, timber value perspective, there's just not any value in any of this timber in here. So don't look at it, don't let them price it, definitely don't buy it on the aspect of timber. In this case, not a lot of trees, but no timber, and you want to know the difference. Okay, well, here's another one of those examples that we talked about. So there's a drainage right here. And I remember when I first moved back from the military and I got out of the Navy, I moved back into Wisconsin. I had to learn how to re-hunt because I was used to flat ground, and I wasn't used to using these terrain features such as this. So this is a drainage, and when you find the tops of these drainages, there's always a deer trail that's going to cross the top, and that's exactly what we got here. Lucy and I just walked down it because it's easier for them to come to the top versus going through that drainage down below and going down and coming back up. They're lazy, they're gonna come in. So there's a lot of nice trees through here, really easy to access. And this is the kind of features that you want to look at. So when I talk about huntability, how does a property hunt? These are the types of things I look for. I'm seeing a lot of terrain features in this property that lend itself to huntability. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at properties. Okay, well, I was just about out of the timber. Had to pull over and get a little drink of water, but sure enough, I found what I've been talking about all along. If there was a inter-timber, up the ridge side trail that would allow a hunter to come in from the parking area and drop down on top of these deer, and that would add a lot of value. And sure enough, I found it. So it's not very descript, but it's here. It could be mowed, but this is a big plus, because accessibility to a property is probably the best attribute of a property, and to create this access costs tens of thousands of dollars. So this one has it. Now, I don't know what it looks like the whole ridge. I don't know how far it goes down, but I finally found it, and it's a great asset to have on a property. Well, there you have it, guys. What a gorgeous piece of property. And I'm sitting here right now, I see deer. You can't see them off camera. They're running out of the field here. This property is fantastic. It's got Plum Creek running almost the length of it, the good portion of it. I haven't measured yet, but it's probably, I don't know, 200-300 yards of Plum Creek frontage that actually is on the property. Then you come into this property on a dead-end road. There's a town road, so this makes it really secluded. You get down in here, there's just nobody around. And then the south side, there's that large cornfield slash soybean field. This year it's in soybeans. Last time I was here it was in corn. Fertile ground. And then this wooded ridge runs the whole length of the property, and it's all in MFL closed. MFL Close is a tax reduction program here in Wisconsin that allows you to reduce your taxes by having the DNR manage your timber. And in this case, it's almost complete. There's a few more years left in it, and there's no more cuts. So any timber that is on the property now is yours as a buyer, should you decide to re-enroll it or maybe cut the timber out. As far as hunting ability, there's a nice trail. It comes right down from the parking area all the way down through the property. It's really easy to sneak in. There's an old farmstead down there. It'd be a great food plot. The old buildings are gone, but the remnants of it are there. I found a mineral lick that's being used pretty heavily by the deer. And then when I got down in there, that creek bottom, it just winds through this bottom land. Nobody around. I'll guarantee it's loaded with deer. There's definitely Boone and Crockett caliber bucks in this valley, no doubt whatsoever. And we're located within an hour or so of the Twin Cities. I mean, that, Fab 5 we talk about, where you're close to everything, but not too far away. You get down in here and you're secluded, easy to get to. You got a lot of diversity. I mean, very rarely does a property like this come up where you've got timber, you've got water, you got tillable, you got access. It's just a fantastic property. So if you're interested in this property, guys, when you see this video, it is for sale. The land in this area goes anywhere from like $5 grand an acre up to as high as $19,000 an acre, and we're priced very competitively. But bring your offers and we'll put it in front of the seller and we'll see what happens. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime property. You're not going to likely find something like this ever again. If you want to trout fish, if you want to build a home, you want some hunting, this is a place. So, hey guys, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel here. I put these types of videos up for your benefit. We talk about the pros and cons and buying them, kind of my eyes, what I see. And if you like podcasting, make sure you check out my podcast on Apple and Spotify. I drop it weekly, and we talk about properties like this, how to get into a property and how to make you become an American landman. I hope you've enjoyed this video. As always, guys, I'm Neil Hauger, and I'm a land specialist with Whitetail Properties Real Estate, and you've been watching The American Landman.